Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Vina Barath in for Nicola Barato. Let's take a look at the headlines. Olympians receive Hummingbird medals at a mini national award ceremony held in their honor and inspire our youth throughout the nation. Inspiring words from the First Lady as she hails the nation's literarians. It was a dream come true for members of Trinidad and Tobago's Olympic 4x100 meters and 4x400 meters relay teams as they proudly received their Hummingbird gold medals from the President at a special mini-national award ceremony held at Knowsley Building in Port of Spain.
A ceremony was held to honor Trinidad and Tobago's 2 bronze medal-winning London Olympic relay teams who were out of the country during the Independence Day Awards ceremony. The national achievements of the Olympic athletes rekindled joy and pride throughout the country, earning citizens the bragging rights and to cheer and share in their glory the accomplishments of the Olympics 2012. Members of the men's 4x100 and 4x400 relay squads were presented with Hummingbird gold medals for their sterling achievement.
The Hummingbird Medal may be awarded for loyal and devoted service in any field of human endeavor or for gallantry or other humane action to Trinidad and Tobago. The Hummingbird Medal Gold is today awarded to the following: Mr. Lalonde Gordon, athlete in the sphere of sport. Mr. Gordon.
After His Excellency, the President George Maxwell Richards pinned the medals on the 4x400 quartet. However, even as we celebrate our achievements today, we must look to the future if we want to continue to record our success that we have shared this year. Following the awards, the President gave a speech. He spoke of the distinct pleasure he had of seeing Trinidad and Tobago's athletes at the 2012 Olympics, including the superb performance of cyclist Josane Phillip.
My wife and I had the distinct pleasure of witnessing the track and field events at the Olympic Stadium, and especially those where our athletes performed. We also had the pleasure of seeing the superb performance of Mr. Phillip at the Velodrome, so that we were left with the impression that we have distinguished ourselves in this aspect of our lives, and therefore I would wish to congratulate each one of you.
Also present at the ceremony were Chief Justice Ivor Archie, Opposition Leader Dr. Keith Rowley, Senate Vice President Lindira Odit, and members of Parliament. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
We will be back with more news after this short break. The University of the West Indies opens its doors to a new batch of students for the academic year 2012-2013, and in doing so, 3 new faculties have been created at the St. Augustine campus. Professor Clement Sankat, Pro-Vice Chancellor and Campus Principal, says it is part of fulfilling the demand of stakeholders in the job market.
It's that time again when the University of the West Indies opens its doors to eager, fresh minds. And in welcoming the hundreds of fresh faces to campus, new students took the final step in the administration process, the matriculation ceremony. Inviting the students to partake in this ceremony, Professor Clement Sankat, Pro-Vice Chancellor and Campus Principal at UWI St. Augustine, says pursuing studies at this level entails not only book knowledge, but equipping oneself for the ever-evolving world of work outside campus life. It's for this reason the campus welcomes students to 3 new faculties opened for filling the void in the job market in these skill areas.
You have come, my dear students, at one of the most important juncture of our campus. You have come and you are members of 3 new faculties which have been created. The Faculty of Science and Technology, the Faculty of Food and Agriculture, and the Faculty of Law. Faculties which have been created to provide focus, direction, and impetus to these areas, and yes, to meet the demands of our stakeholders. It is not only about book knowledge and excelling there. It is about preparing yourselves for a world that is changing every day, and the world that of 4 or 5 years from now will be different from today. You got to prepare yourselves for that day. Use this opportunity. We at the UWI St. Augustine campus will do all that we can to ensure your success, but you must do the same. As I said, we want to help you make your dreams come true.
Students in taking the academic vow, President of the Student Guild, Kevin Ramsawak, urged students to take their time on campus seriously and focus on putting their best foot forward.
I urge you to completely appreciate your UWI life. And while being diligent bookworms, take some time to socialize, make friends, bust a lime, and enjoy what it means to be young and smart. Today I bestow upon you greatness. Represent well and do your best.
In commemorating this country's 50th independence anniversary, Vice-Chancellor Professor E. Nigel Harris says this batch of students will become the next 50 years of Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean.
This is at once a moment of celebration, as it should be one of reflection and looking to our future. I feel that very honored to be here today, because in 20, 30, 50 years from now, you are going to be one of our leaders. You are the people who will determine the next 50 years of Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. And in this context, I'm not only welcoming you, I'm saluting you as the leaders of our future Caribbean.
Over 5,000 students enrolled in studies at the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies this year, which includes over 300 students from our Caribbean neighbors. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
Minister of the Environment and Water Resources, Ganga Singh, says government remains committed to doing all it can to protect the ozone layer. Speaking at the launch of an interactive ozone display in commemoration of the 25th anniversary of the Montreal Protocol held at the Nehurst Science Centre, the Water Resources Minister says this country is taking steps towards phasing out ozone harmful substances while educating the public on ways they can help to save the ozone layer.
Evidence of a threat to the ozone layer, an ultra-thin UV shield found in the stratosphere, as exemplified by the cartoon that we so enjoyed, was discovered by scientists in the 1970s. This discovery was the impetus for both the development of the Vienna Convention for the protection of the ozone layer and the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer. In the last 25 years of successful implementation, the protocol has been continuously strengthened. In fact, we have seen the phasing out of nearly 100 ozone-depleting substances and the replacement of these damaging chemicals with ozone-friendly substances and products. Government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago remains committed to fulfilling all our obligations under the protocol and will continue to do our part to help save the ozone layer. Our government remains committed to the protection of the environment and will continue to promote sustainable policy as we have done since assuming office in May 2010.
The commitment by Minister Ganga Singh, who says protecting the ozone layer is priority. Minister Singh says this country is now faced with phasing out hydrochlorofluorocarbons, which are used primarily as refrigerants and are found in the air conditioning, refrigeration and foam sectors. This process, he says, will commence in 2013.
As we did with our phase-out program for chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, the plan for the HCFC phase-out was developed through a stakeholder collaborative process. As many of you are aware, this collaborative process is one that is embraced by our government. Earlier this year, we used a stakeholder approach to address quarrying concerns in the Northern Range. And we are going to utilize the stakeholder approach to address the issue of overhunting in Trinidad and Tobago in the coming weeks. I am very pleased to announce today that aside from the launch of the display, we will also be officially signing this country's HCFC Phase-Out Management Plan, HPMP. It seems like in this sector, they like a lot of acronyms, which was approved by the Executive Committee of the Montreal Protocol in the sum of over $1 million. The key components of the HPMP, that is, the AHFC Phase-Out Management Plan, over the next few years will include training of technicians, workshops, retrofits, equipment provision for recovery and recycling of refrigerants, and legislative reform.
Minister Singh says educating the current generation and those to come is a critical aspect in ensuring an appreciation for the environment. Exposure to direct sunlight, he says, can lead to premature aging of the skin, skin cancer, and even cataracts. National Ozone Officer in the Ministry of the Environment and Water Resources, Dr. Marissa Gorey, who chaired the event, also sought to shed some light on some common misconceptions regarding the sun and exposure to it.
With respect to cloud cover, the UV rays come from the sun, so it's a different issue from the warmth of the sun. So the rays are always coming out of the sun, even when there is cloud cover. And also to note that the UV rays are sometimes reflected on vegetation, water, so it would bounce off of that surface and onto your skin, giving you the same burn factor.
Meanwhile, also addressing the conference was Ms. Rosemary Lal, who revealed that a brand new science center will soon be built next to the Children's Hospital. Sports is up right after the break. The ICC World 2020 is scheduled to be bowled off on Tuesday in Sri Lanka, with the home team facing Zimbabwe in the opener. The West Indies are considered one of the favourites for the title, and they faced Afghanistan in their final warm-up match, with Windies captain Darren Sammy hoping for his men to come into form ahead of their first match against Australia on the weekend. And he got what he wanted with a comprehensive victory over the Afghans. Afghanistan won the toss and elected to bat first at the Oval in Colombo, but must have ruled that decision as Sammy, Fidel Edwards and Ravi Rampal took out the top order in the first 6 overs with just 32 runs on the board. They never really recovered from that start, with only Ashgar Staniza offering any resistance with a hard-fought 53. They could only amass 122 for 7 in their 20 overs. Fidel Edwards was the best West Indies bowler with figures of 3 for 24 in the 4 overs. Despite losing Dwayne Smith for 13 and Jonathan Charles for 12, the regional team made light work of the target, with Chris Gayle leading the charge with 65 not out in 48 balls. The other not out batsman was Marlon Samuels, who made 15 as the West Indies reached 125 for 2 in 15.5 overs to win the match by 8 wickets. The London 2012 Olympians have made various appearances throughout the nation since the completion of the Games. One of the most fulfilling, according to the athletes, was last Thursday at the Little Carib Theatre in Woodbrook. Wayne Cunningham has more.
The London 2012 Olympians gathered at the Little Carib Theatre in Woodbrook for a school symposium and were warmly greeted by a cross-section of the nation's youth. The focus of the symposium was to allow interaction between the students and athletes, and that turned out to be quite inspiring according to this participant.
First, I want to say congratulations to the sports team that went for Trinidad and Tobago. It was pretty an honor to see our country in the Olympics. This program is really interesting, is motivational, is helping me to be more confident in my subjects and what I want to do, to stick with it, and seeing athletes who are just a little older than me from Trinidad and Tobago making it, just being wonderful and nice.
Kelly Adams of El Dorado East Secondary School was grateful for the information the athletes shared.
It has been very informative today because I'm an athlete myself, and my future goals are actually to make it to the next Olympics. And hearing from the other athletes being in college, the time management and stuff, it has been very, very significant in terms of me wanting to achieve my goals and actually going to college in future, actually going to college next 2 years and representing my country. It has motivated me a lot because my fault in sports was remaining mentally focused, because when you're at a high level, when I was younger, I was probably a better athlete, and then as you get older, there are challenges along the way. And you falter at times, but it helped encourage me again to actually follow my dreams.
Signet Hill's Kevon Weeks also benefited from the symposium.
It's encouraged me to pursue my goals, to do well in sports, and to be a better person, so that I could help younger people to study what they would like to do and to further their studies and their education.
Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
We'll be right back with more on News 4 after the break. Minister of Local Government, the Honorable Suryajratan Rambachan, is underscoring the need for regional corporations to make use of social networking media. He made his case as he continues to visit the various regional corporations around the country to meet with residents and hear their plights.
Minister Rambachan continues his social outreach program, and his latest meeting with citizens took place at the Penal Debe Regional Corporation. The local government minister, who is on the fourth leg of his regional corporation visits, says the visits are to ensure persons can have serious infrastructural issues resolved. He explains that this will see the creation of better communities through the better delivery of services.
I have set as my mission to have a situation where people are going to be very satisfied with the services that local government offers to them, especially those which we are duty bound under the Municipal Corporations Act of 1990. I have set 3 goals for myself and for my ministry. 1, the delivery of better services to people. Secondly, the facilitating of the building of better communities. And thirdly, creating stronger regional corporation councils in order to deliver on the first 2.
Addressing the councillors for the Penal Debe Regional Corporation, Minister Rambachan reiterates the need for Facebook to be used to promote the regional corporations and how they serve the people. He reminds councillors of the importance of the social media in a society where much is expected of those in authority. The minister explains that while the praise may be little, councillors must still seek to show the public what they have done and can continue to do for them.
People do not know the work you are doing. They don't know it. So what we have to do is do 2 things. Immediately, everybody here should be getting on Facebook with a Facebook page. And you should have a Facebook page with the corporation. We have promoted a participatory democracy. People want to be part of that democracy. And part of that democracy is heavy criticism of what you do. Not praise, heavy criticism of what you do. In other words, they expect that, look, you have to build a train, you build it. I ain't coming to praise you for that. Right? That's the reality, right? That's the reality. So now we have to tell them what we do.
The minister also laments the lack of proper drainage infrastructure experienced by the people of Penal. He says this is as a result of neglect by previous administrations and is promising to deal with the issue.
What I'm finding on most of these visits is that there are 2 problems that people are faced with. 1, it is the condition of their roads, and secondly, matters of drainage. In this particular area that I'm here today, I've found that there are many drainage problems. And this has been, a long outstanding issue in the area. As you know, the former administration never paid attention to these areas. And therefore, the development of physical infrastructure, especially relates to drainage, was something that was neglected. And this inheritance, therefore, that we have of the quality of drainage is something that we have to deal with.
The minister says the Unemployment Relief Program, or URP, will be utilized in fixing small drainage problems to allow for quick resolution of minor problems. He says this process should begin by October. The minister will next be at the Arima Regional Corporation on Tuesday to meet with residents of Arima. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
First Lady of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Her Excellency Dr. Jean Ram John Richards, is urging citizens to withdraw themselves from the taking for granted syndrome and become more appreciative of the unique elements which define them. Speaking at a tea party at Lit Tributes to the Republic with readings and performances inspired by Litscapes, the First Lady says writers of poems, history and rhapsody, as well as composers and singers, are jewels in the nation's crown and they should be celebrated.
It is not all right to comfort ourselves with the idea that people all over the world do not appreciate their own country. That idea needs serious examination as to truth. Even if it were so, that is not good enough for us, and we must stir ourselves out of the taking for granted syndrome and become more familiar with the elements that make us who we are. Literacy is a critical part of this, if I may say, revolution. And in the thrust to bring as many compatriots on board as possible, the visual has an important role to play. So do the sounds and the variety of odors that tell us where we are, even without sight.
The First Lady offering words of advice to the nation at Lit Tributes to the Republic at the Knowsley Building. Her Excellency says she is certain that each individual can play a role in the literacy campaign, which is aimed at discovering and rediscovering themselves. She says individuals must take account of the physical landmarks that rally the nation behind its history, which impels it towards the future.
We have a duty to preserve our historic buildings, and therefore we must ensure that public policy take account of our urgings, our sustained urgings, lest we become poor imitations of foreign places while features of our history crumble around us. Our watercourses, our flora and fauna must be respected as an intrinsic part of our patrimony. As I say this, I ask myself, what has become or what is becoming of the buffalo sows? Who are we as mindful of them as we are of the turtles for which we fought a good, necessary, and sustained campaign?
The book entitled Litscapes, Landscapes of Fiction from Trinidad and Tobago by Chris Rampersad was launched at Whitehall in Port of Spain several months ago. Litscapes features more than 300 full-color photographs of more than 500 fictional scapes. An ultimate companion to the rich fictional imaginations inspired by this country, the book also suggests more than a dozen walks and cross-country excursions with some of the greatest fictional characters in the modern age. The book, which maps the living experiences of the most famous characters in fiction from Trinidad and Tobago, was described by Her Excellency as a potential inspiration to young writers.
I have no doubt that Litscapes, Landscapes of Fiction from Trinidad and Tobago, so well crafted, can be an inspiration to other young writers. It provides a most useful beachhead for stirring or buttressing a program of self-discovery, local and foreign tourism, and entrepreneurship, among a number of other avenues for sustainable development in our country.
This has been our News 4 Reports, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Vuna Barra, thanking you so much for joining us.